All right, class. Well, we're recording a live class on Constitution Day about the Constitution in Chapter 4. And we're starting with our special guest today. It's the Honorable Seth Peacock, Ithaca City Court Judge. Thank you for joining us, Your Honor.
Thanks for having me.
And Judge Peacock, I wanted to ask you a few starting out questions. How did you find yourself to make your way to the bench as a judge in Ithaca City Court?
Well, I had an unusual experience. I drove tractor trailers for about 10 years and had always seen lawyers on TV and things like that. Didn't really have a family background or was exposed to that. And finally, after driving about 10 years, I always kept in the back of my mind that I wanted to get myself educated. And I went back to school when I was about 25 while I was driving trucks and went to school part-time at a local community college like many of your students are doing. This was the New York City, and did well at my local community college. And then after that, simply decided, hey, why not try and be a lawyer? I didn't know what it was about. It was more like an aspiration, and applied to a bunch of schools. And then I found myself up here at Cornell Law School, and that's kind of how the process started.
That's a really cool story. So you started out in doing hardworking, honest work in the real world, and then you worked your way back to school, starting with community college.
Yeah. In fact, community college was really a gift for me, and it was affordable, and it was a great learning experience, and I learned a lot, and I did well enough, and frankly, it got me into Cornell Law School, so it really was a game changer.
That's awesome. And before you became a judge, you had your own practice, right? Here in Ithaca?
Yeah, when I graduated from law school, I went to a large corporate firm for a few years down in Texas, and then I came back to Ithaca and I started practicing law in Ithaca.
And this class is business law, so I want to ask you, what was it like? What was your experience? Or what were your favorite experiences about having your own business?
One of the good things about having your own business is that you have the ability to control what you do on a daily basis. And you also have a lot of flexibility in terms of what type of cases you'll take. Along with that comes a lot of responsibility for, taking care of the administrative side of things, the paperwork, the mundane tasks that are often not as pleasant or exciting as going to court or representing people and things like that. So.
And then why did you become a judge? What made you get motivated to put your name out there and become Ithaca City Court Judge?
So, like I said, I really didn't have a family background or any experience in the legal world. So when I came up to Cornell Law School, I met Judge Rossiter, who used to be the Ithaca City Court Judge, and I was doing a internship for a semester with her, and she kind of offhandedly at one point said, hey, why don't you come back here or stay here, and maybe you can take this position. And it wasn't a real thing that I ever thought about, but she kind of planted that seed, and I kind of remembered that. And then later when I moved back to Ithaca, she kind of mentioned it again, and then I realized it was a real option, and I tried it the first time, and then I lost the primary, and then lost the position. So I was city judge for about 6 months, and then lost the position and had to go back to being a lawyer. And then a second opportunity came up, and I tried to win the primary again, and that time I was successful, and now I have a 10-year term as the Ithaca City Court Judge.
Awesome. And what's your favorite part of the job so far?
The favorite part of the job is I live in a community that I care about and value, and it's a real gift that I'm able to try to make things a little better for people who appear before me in this court. A lot of times when people are, especially in criminal cases, appearing before you, they're sometimes at a low point in their lives. They might be struggling with drugs or alcohol or other issues. And sometimes, what you do and how you handle their case can greatly affect the outcome of their life at that point. While at the same time, trying to put things in place for people that come before the court, I also have to balance the safety obligation I have to the community, and also set standards of behavior about what's acceptable and what's not. So that's kind of nice that I get to have a positive effect on the community that I value and that I chose to live in.
Well, that is evident in watching you do your job in the Ithaca City Court. And I also wanted to ask you, since we're covering the Constitution, I carry around this pocket Constitution, and sometimes I make arguments about the Constitution in court because it's sort of the foundation and the bedrock of all US law. So, and this was autographed by another local attorney here, Ray Schlother, and he said, "May this always be your first book." So I often find myself going back to the Constitution and just looking back at what that document means to the fundamental principles of the US justice system. And I wanted to ask you, do you have a favorite amendment in here, a favorite part of the Constitution that you think about since you've been studying law?
Well, first I'll say, like most lawyers, I've learned a lot about the details of Constitution, and many citizens don't kind of have that history of studying it like we've had, whether it was school or just in what we do on a daily basis. I don't know that I have a favorite amendment, but one amendment that I think is important is the First Amendment. And I say it's important because when you think of American society and culture, what you think of is this open society where people have the freedom of speech and expression, to exchange ideas, to discuss difficult topics. And I think that amendment really sets the tone for how we kind of interact with each other on a daily basis. So I'd have to say that the freedom of expression First Amendment is one that I really value and think is important.
Well, thank you very much for your time, Judge. I want to thank you for your service on the bench as Ithaca City Court Judge. I think that everything you've shared with us matches what my experience has been observing as an attorney. And I believe you also taught at TC3 for some time.
Yeah, I did. I maybe 10 years ago, and it was something I enjoyed, and I'm happy to invite all your students to come down and visit the court and say hello and see their local court in action. It may not be exciting, but it is your local court, and come down and see what happens.
Well, we don't always get a personal invitation like that. So I encourage the students to contact me if you want to follow up and take Judge Peacock up on his offer. And thank you for your time today. When I do these little intro interviews with people, I like to end with something maybe outside of the job related, either a favorite movie or book or something like that. And I was wondering if, just thinking back, if there was a book or piece of art or music or movie that you can think of that maybe made you think about the law, or you find interesting, that maybe maybe the students or myself might just take a look at out of curiosity.
Yeah, when I was first thinking about becoming a lawyer and going to law school, there was a law professor named Derek Bell, and he wrote this book, Faces at the Bottom of the Well. And I remember thinking it was interesting because what he did is he took fictionalized stories and kind of intertwined legal issues within those stories. And it was just an interesting way to approach looking at the law. And they were all kind of short stories, and some of them were pretty interesting. So I do remember that book, and just having a lot of respect for seeing stories written in a way that wasn't just simple, like a law review article or something like that. It was kind of using fiction to discuss legal issues. So.
Well, thanks for sharing, and thanks for celebrating. We're recording in Ithaca today on September 17th, which is Constitution Day. So thanks for celebrating with us, and keep up the good work.
Absolutely, and I love that tie, by the way. So.
Oh, thanks. Have a good one.
Take care. Yep.